Student finance applications each year can be a bit of a minefield if you don't know what you're doing. Have you taken enough? How much should you take? Are you taking too much? Are all the questions that we're going to be answering in today's video. Hi guys, and welcome back to Student Money Hacks, where we help you build healthy financial habits that last. And we're fast approaching the 19th of June deadline for returning students to fill out their loan applications, and we've just passed the deadline for new students, but you can still apply. There might just be a bit of a delay in getting your money when term does start up again in September. So hopefully you should know where to apply, and that is Student Finance England. And if you've watched any of my previous videos, you know that you get a tuition loan of £9,250 each year, and also a maintenance loan that goes from £3,000 all the way up to £11,000, depending on where you're going to be studying and on your parents' income. And Student Finance England will tell you how much you're entitled to once you've filled in your details on the application process. But what I haven't gone into any of my videos is whether you should take your full entitlement or not. So pretty much everyone is going to take the full tuition loan, so quickly moving past that and into maintenance loans. So like I said, how much maintenance loan you're entitled to depends on your parents' income. So if you're from a well-off background, you get a much lower maintenance loan. And this basically means that your parents are expected to make up the difference between you and someone from a less well-off background, and that's why it's assessed on your parental income. So an example here is my flatmate at the moment, and you could say he's from a fairly well-off background. I hate that phrase, but anyway, he gets something like £4,000 a year in maintenance loan. But our rent is about £7,500 a year, because we live in the southeast where rent prices are a joke. But you can see his maintenance loan doesn't even cover his rent. So he had a conversation with his parents to say, look, this is the situation, and then they agreed to pay the rent. So he can use his maintenance loan on all the other living expenses while at uni. But if you are only entitled to a small maintenance loan, this is because of your parents' income. So you do need to have a conversation with them explaining why you have a small maintenance loan. And this is something that no one really ever talks about. And I know it's not easy talking about money with your family members, but you just need to let them know that it is judged on their income and they are expected to make up the difference. But if you don't want them to do this, or they can't at the moment, there are other options. Then you've got the complete other side of the spectrum, with those on high maintenance loans. So let's say my flatmate that I talked about previously was from a low income household. He'd be able to access about £9,000 to £10,000 worth of maintenance loan. So you can see that completely covers the rent of £7,000 a year and some basic living expenses as well. So in this case, the low income household, his parents wouldn't be able to contribute to his university expenses at all, but they're not expected to, hence why he is able to access a larger loan. But let's say he was living somewhere cheaper, where rent is half of what it is in Brighton maybe. He might not even need that full £9,000 to £10,000 maintenance loan here. So my situation last year, for example, where I worked all through my gap year, managed to build up a decent level of savings, and along with a part-time job while at uni last year, I knew that I would have all my expenses covered, so I didn't have to ask for any help from my parents, and I didn't take any maintenance loan at all because I knew I didn't need to, and I had all my bases covered. Or my situation next year where I'll be living at home, so I won't have any rent coming out, so my expenses are really stripped back down to next to nothing really. And along with a part-time job, I'll have all my expenses covered, so I know that I don't need to take a maintenance loan, even though I am entitled to about £4,000. Obviously I could take this money and feel like a baller for a year, but if you're thinking about the future and what you're going to be paying back over the long term, hopefully this will benefit me. Obviously this isn't applicable to everyone, and you can only really do it if you've got plenty of savings behind you, or you're living at home so your expenses are really small, but I know there will be a few of you out there that does apply to. So essentially the best thing that you can do is to educate yourself on how much, or roughly estimate how much your outgoings are going to be over the course of the university year. And now obviously that is going to be 10 times easier for returning students. But if you're unsure about how much you're going to be spending in a year, maybe check out my simple student budget video. But in essence, is your maintenance loan enough to cover your outgoings? If yes, then great. Only take out what you need, limit your debt so you minimise what you pay back over the long run. And if it isn't enough to cover your outgoings, this is probably because you've got a smaller maintenance loan due to your parental income, in which case you need to sit down with them, discuss what the situation is, but you might need a part-time job to supplement that. But remember, don't worry about taking a large loan if you need it, because once you graduate, you only pay back what you can afford. So that's it for today, but make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any student finance related content coming each and every week. So until next time, thank you.